So recently, news broke that a grand jury has indicted Baltimore State's Attorney Marilyn Mosby. She held a news conference on Friday to address what her attorney called bogus charges. Marilyn Mosby, Attorney Mosby, was indicted on charges of perjury related to a COVID-19 financial hardship withdrawal and a false statement on a loan application relating to the 2020 purchases of two vacation homes in Florida. Are you kidding me right now? The attorney says that I am innocent of the charges that have been levied against me and intend to fight with every ounce of energy within my being to prove my innocence and to clear my name. She had a news conference where she did not take questions. She said that I have done nothing wrong. I did not defraud anyone to take money from my retirement savings, and I did not lie on any mortgage application. So the indictment is the timing of the indictment is interesting. We are 5 months before a very critical midterm election. She is running for to continue her time in office as Baltimore's state's attorney. And she had a lot to say during the almost 10-minute press conference. According to the four-count indictment, on May the 26th, 2020, and December 29th, 2020, Mosby submitted a 457B coronavirus-related distribution request for one-time withdrawal of $40,000 and $50,000 respectively from the Baltimore City Deferred Compensation Plan. The indictment further alleges that on July 28th, 2020 and September 2nd, 2020, as well as on January 14th, 2021 and February 19th, 2021, Mosby made false statements in applications for a $490,500 mortgage to purchase a home in Kissimmee, Florida, and for a $428,000 400 mortgage to purchase a condominium in Longboat Key, Florida. I mean, this is ridiculous. If you want to talk about false statements, shouldn't they kind of go chronological in order? I mean, we're going to talk about false statements. If we want to talk about people getting PPP, coronavirus-related distribution requests, there are many politicians, many businesses, many companies that we could look at. If we're setting a standard here, why does the standard always have to be applied to black politicians, namely black female politicians in Baltimore? Very interesting things. So then you have to look at this on a bigger scope. What has she done? What has she done? Who has she pissed off? Of course, we know of the famous case with the officers for the death of Freddie Gray. We've talked often about her stance on some criminals that she wants to, abusers of drugs. She says she doesn't want to go after them, and prostitution. She didn't feel the need to focus on these type of crimes. She wanted to focus on some what she calls more serious crimes, right? And of course, police conduct. That's something that many of her detractors don't like that. She said that she did not expect for an investigation into her professional travel which I asked for to somehow snowball into state ethics and state election board inquiries, a federal investigation, and ultimately a federal indictment, Mosby said. Now, these federal charges come just weeks before the filing deadline for the June primary for the state's attorney's office, which I mentioned already that she is seeking reelection. Has she been a perfect state's attorney? Nobody's perfect. Nobody's perfect. But the fact that she has been targeted since the prosecution of the officers that were responsible for the death of Freddie Gray. She has been in the crosshairs of conservative media, conservative politicians, political adversaries, and Donald Trump. She named Donald Trump in her press conference, who was someone who wanted her to be prosecuted because she's somebody that goes against the stat quo. People don't like that. White people in this country do not like that. Who is this black woman coming around here trying to apply the law to us? The law ain't made for us. The law made for them, right? You have some people with that mentality. And the fact that these federal charges are coming just weeks before the filing deadline shows you just how politically motivated these things are. The timing, oh my goodness, the timing. Now, no one has officially filed for candidacy yet. And I'm going to tell you why. Because they're going to wait till right before the deadline and then file then. That's normal. Mosby has been fundraising but has not formally filed for re-election. That's just some paperwork. Are they going to try to get her for that? How dare she fundraise and not file yet? I mean, there's a filing deadline, right? Mosby has been a target since 2015. What did she do in 2015? Why is she a state's attorney on the national stage? Because you don't always hear about Baltimore state's attorney. Who was the state's attorney before Marilyn Mosby? Many of you don't even know. Because that's someone that just goes with the stat quo. Marilyn Mosby is someone who has gone against the grain. In order for things to change in Baltimore or your city, the stat quo has to change. Business as usual has to change. So Mosby, per her, and I agree with this, has been a target since 2015. The police in custody death of Freddie Gray put her in the crosshairs of a lot of people. As a black woman, a lawyer, a wife, and a mother looking to serve my community, I sought elected office because there was so much more we could do and should be doing to bridge the divide, the criminal justice system, and communities that we are entrusted to serve, Mosby said on why she initially ran for the position in the first place. She intends to fight these charges, and I am glad to hear that. Now, the charges. Are we talking about bogus charges, as her attorney, A. Scott Bolden, says? Are we talking about things that are not with merit? Did she really do something wrong here, right? Did she really do something wrong, or are people targeting her? Are her enemies targeting her? She says that she's innocent, and she has time to prove that. But this is not about sending her to jail. That's not what this is about. This is about besmirching her, making her look bad, and bringing charges. This is very similar to what happened to Hillary Clinton right before her election. You bring some charges, you make some talk about, dirt, making the candidate look corrupt, make the candidate look like they got some stuff with them, and that's going to turn some people off. a federal grand jury 4 charges of perjury, claiming that a COVID-19 hardship on applications to withdraw what is essentially $90,000 from her retirement account. From her retirement account. Now, here's the thing. A COVID-19 hardship, what does that mean? That means because of COVID-19, things were what? Things were hard. Oh, that's against the law? Are you kidding me? That's against the law. This money came from her retirement account. We're not talking about money that came from the good folks of Baltimore City. No. These aren't gift cards that she was spending in the Mondawmin Mall. No, that's not what this is. And those things were overblown, right? This is money that came from her retirement account. The withdrawals without a tax penalty were a temporary financial operation created by the Federal CARES Act for people who suffered hardships during the pandemic. Now, this has been a lot has been made of this. Mosby's salary at the time was $247,000, so close to $248,000. That's what her salary was then, right? So their point, I mean, people that have made more money than that have claimed just what she has. So she has a business, you know what I mean? So it's not far-fetched for her to make these claims. So as I said, her attorney says that these charges are rooted in personal, political, and racial animus 5 months from her election. I mean, all points lead to that. Federal prosecutors say that those false charges were made on mortgage applications for some homes. So one in Kissimmee, Florida, and a condominium in Longboat Key, about 3 hours to the west. So as part of these applications, Mosby did not, according to them, disclose a federal tax lien of $45,000 that had been placed against her and her husband, Nick Mosby. So after withdrawing this cash from her retirement account, let me say that one more time. After withdrawing this cash from her retirement account, Mosby took out a $490,000 mortgage on the Kissimmee home and a $428,000 mortgage on the Longboat Key condo. So, people that don't understand, we're talking about 2 properties. And this is something that the conservative media in Baltimore, namely Fox 45, have been poking at. They've been poking at this. What about this? What about that? I mean, they never talk about all the properties that Governor Larry Hogan has. Plenty of properties. They never talk about any of those things. I don't even think that they talk about anything that the white people do at all. The only thing that Fox 45 talks about is stuff that black politicians do. They talked about Sheila Dixon. They talked about Stephanie Rollins. They talked about, you name it, they talked about it, if they were black. Now, if they were white, oh, wait, we ain't talking about none of that. I mean, Governor Hogan has folks that worked for him that have been indicted on corruption and much worse than this. They don't even talk about that. The Baltimore Sun, did they talk about this? Did they talk about any of this other stuff? No, they want to talk these black politicians and blast them. Catherine Pugh is in jail, right? The Mosbys jointly had some federal income tax stuff from 2014, 15, and 16, totaling $45,000. Do you want to talk about Donald Trump's taxes? Oh, wait, you can't see that? We can't see Donald. I mean, the hypocrisy is maddening. Hypocrisy is maddening. Now, Nick Mosby told the press that there were any such tax liens against the couple by the federal government. The tax lien was ultimately paid last year. right? The tax lien's been paid. So I don't even know what we're talking about right now. Mosby's attorney said Thursday that she was not aware of the tax lien and couldn't have lied on the mortgage paperwork, right? So the best that you have is this tomfoolery. Nick Mosby has not been accused of any wrongdoing. Oh, why? Now, let's keep in mind, Nick Mosby is not up for election right now. Marilyn Mosby is up for election. Marilyn Mosby. So what they're saying is, we're not targeting you, Nick. It's not your time. I guess the stuff on Nick Mosby is going to come up right before his election in 2024. Now, according to the indictment, Marilyn Mosby also signed a second home rider for the Kissimmee property, representing to the mortgage company that the house would be used primarily as a personal residence for at least 1 year and would not be rented as a vacation property. The rider was signed on September 2nd, 2020, a week earlier. On August 25th, Mosby had signed an agreement with a vacation home management company to control the property, according to the indictment. Now, her husband could live there. She could live there. Who knows? I mean, we're not going to sit here and talk about politicians and property and these things without. There has to be a fair application of the law and the scrutiny. So, by saying that the home would be for personal and not rental use, Mosby could secure a lower interest rate, according to federal prosecutors. Okay? So, there is a news outlet in Baltimore called the Baltimore Brew. Purchase of the two Florida properties was first disclosed by them. This is a conservative media outlet that targets black politicians. So the charges are definitely something that I would use to describe this. On Roland Martin Unfiltered, A. Scott Bolden said the CARES Act provision allowed people affected financially in any way, and that Mosby's travel-related side business had taken a hit. Now, her accountant urged her to take that money, and she took the money to buy homes, her attorney said. So, this is true. The CARES Act provision did allow people affected financially to get money. Marilyn Mosby is not the only person that's done this. And this is different from someone fraudulently getting a quote-unquote PPP loan. This is not what we're talking about. But some people are lumping all of this together. And that probably comes from ignorance and not understanding exactly what we're talking about here. So today we have an indictment. And I want to remind people that these are merely allegations. These are merely allegations. He has not been convicted of anything. The maximum penalty for perjury in a federal case is 5 years. The maximum penalty for making false mortgage applications is 30 years. So I don't know where she's going to fall within that. A hearing has not been scheduled, and I don't think a hearing will be scheduled. This is about dirtying her up before an election. And speaking of elections, she's a Democrat. She faces re-election this year. There is a primary June the 28th in the city of Baltimore. So Democrats outnumber Republicans by nearly 11-1. So there is a November 8th general election. So whoever wins the primary in Baltimore, the Democrat is usually who's elected. I would say 99.9% 99% of the time. It's like a condom, right? In Baltimore, with regards to Baltimore City, Democrats versus Republicans, who's going to win? It's going to be a Democrat. And so she held a re-election fundraiser November 18th, another one, a virtual one, on Wednesday that was billed as a celebrity birthday bash. And then the next day, these charges come. Very interesting. So, two former assistant state's attorneys have announced they were candidates for Mosby's seat in the Democratic primary. Roya Hanna and Ivan Bates, who was on this show a few weeks ago. Mr. Bates ran unsuccessfully against Mosby in 2018, and he is running again. And as I said, Roya Hanna looks like that's who's the competition is going to be. So we're going to continue to follow this. Throughout her second term, Mosby has continued to carefully foster her national presence. She has been really expanding that. But this is a situation that has been following her from conservative media, and it has continued to fester. The prosecutor in the case has given money to Marilyn Mosby's political opponents, right? So I think that's important for many reasons. So, of course, we remember in 2020, Marilyn Mosby initiated an experiment of not prosecuting drug possession crimes, prostitution, trespassing, or nuisance offenses. Oh, so people were just up in arms. Oh, she's soft on crime. She's this, she's that. So these are small drug possession crimes, prostitution, trespassing. What Baltimore City needs is a focus on solving murders. This is true. And these low-level crimes were not the focus. And I think that what happened is that the opponents of Marilyn Mosby were able to get in front of this and define. One of the things that you learn in politics with regards to strategy is defining your opponent. And her adversaries were able to successfully define what that meant. And I don't think that she worked hard enough or was successful at getting the message out there that she's not soft on crime, that she wants to focus. We have a big problem with mass incarceration. A lot of black men locked up on things that weren't as serious. Maybe they couldn't get out of jail. Maybe they didn't have money. They're targeted, right? And when you have a black prosecutor come along and want to do things a little bit differently, you have gotten a lot of this pushback. Her decision drew some criticism by the police, by some in politics. Of course, Governor Larry Hogan, a opponent of hers. So we're going to see what happens here. And there's been a lot of back and forth between Governor Hogan and Attorney Mosby. So the city entered into the Department of Justice consent decree with the city police department. There was a lot of controversy about that. Investigators found that police officers routinely violated the constitutional rights of residents. Marilyn Mosby was very instrumental in bringing some of this to light. People don't like that. The corrupt people don't like that. This is where a lot of this stuff comes from, because these charges are petty. You want to talk about petty? This is petty. So we're going to continue to follow this. Mosby, as I said, asserts her innocence, calls this indictment a political ploy, says that she's not going to be distracted by it. She has an attorney, A. Scott Bolden, who is a good attorney. He's out of D.C. And we definitely have not heard the end of this. And as this election season continues to move. I'm sure that we're going to have a lot of her political opponents throwing darts at her about this. It's going to be very interesting. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, TikTok at The Diamond K Show, at On Fire Television. Of course, if you miss any episodes of the show, you can go to Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio, YouTube.com/DJ Diamond K, the WRF Radio app, and catch up. I will be back tomorrow with my thoughts. A lot of things to talk about. Just when you think that things are slowing down, they speed back up. Give you politics from an independent perspective. If a Republican is wrong, and they usually are, I'm going to call it out. If a Democrat is wrong or weak, and they usually are, I'm going to call it out. Join me weekdays, 8 a.m., 8 p.m. for the Diamond K Show on firetelevision.com.